Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I recently learned that my ex-boyfriend passed away of cancer in March. His mom called me last week to inform me of his passing, and to inform me that myself and her are listed as beneficiaries on his life insurance from his employer. She instantly tells me that she doesn't know why he never changed it, but I can decline or sign the check over to her once I receive it. Instantly, I'm in shock. He's gone? And he left me on there? Why? I went back and forth wondering if this was on purpose or accidental. It had been years, approximately 6, since we mutually civilly split up. I was informed he had a new girlfriend that lived with him, and she has 2 kids from a previous relationship. That threw a wrench into things more. Is there a reason she never got put on it? Was this all just a big mistake? Today it has been 1 week, and this has been very hard, especially since his mom has been terrorizing me all week, trying to get me to agree to give her this money. She has said the most hurtful things, and has sent me the most disrespectful photos and video of her son in his last moments. As of right now, I haven't even gotten in touch with the insurance company. I have no idea how much this is, or if I need a lawyer's help at this point. Well, today is the day. I woke up knowing 100% I'm keeping this money, and I'm not going to feel bad at all for helping my family with a gift my ex left for me. Unfortunately, part of me still wonders if it's the right thing to do by my ex, and if these were his wishes in the end. A little info to add. My home burnt to the ground 3 years ago, July 20th, and October 1st, 2 years ago, my mom passed from cancer as well. It has been a long, hard few years, and this money would literally buy myself a new bra for the first time in 3 years. My little clan could really use this money, and I think my ex knew that. Oh wow. In my opinion, OP is 100% in the wrong here. He simply forgot to change her, not because he thought she needs the money. Yes, legally OP may be entitled to this money, but I have a very hard time believing anyone would leave their ex of 6 years ago on their life insurance on purpose when they have a family and a partner with kids. It's not right, and I'm sure OP knows it deep down, but chooses to ignore it. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Yes, the a-hole. You clearly were not meant to be the beneficiary. This is obviously an oversight, since you stated yourself that you had not spoken to him in ages and broke up 6 years ago. People don't always update these things like they should, and he may have even forgotten that it existed. You should sign over the money to his mother, and his current partner should receive a portion, especially since they live together, and I'm sure she will have unexpected bills that she will now have to cover on her own. Update. People keep commenting that you have to update your beneficiaries yearly. This is absolutely not true for all companies and insurance policies. I worked as a state employee for 6 years, and the only time I updated my life insurance beneficiaries was when I got married and requested to do so. Not the a-hole, but I would be getting legal advice before spending a cent of it. Depending on where in the world you live, these things can be contested in court. Yes, the a-hole. This money was not intended for his ex from 6 years ago. The mom is also an a-hole, but in the end, you should do the right thing and give it to his mom. He and I have been married for 5 years, and we have 1 child, 3 male. We used to live in an apartment in the city, but we decided to move to the suburbs to raise our son. We are still relatively new to the community. We moved here this past June. The neighborhood families were nice enough. They teasingly referred to us as Barbie and Ken. We laughed the first time we heard it, but the more they said it, the more it came off like an insult. We knew within a couple of weeks that we were pigeonholed as the young, ditzy couple. They must have crapped themselves when they found out what we do for a living. I'm a gynecologist, and my husband is an architect. Anyway, there's one family that has always been nice to us, the Coopers. The parents are on the younger side, like us, and they have a teenage daughter who offered to babysit for us when our nanny left to start her own family. Our son is in daycare, and my husband has lessened his work hours. So we really only need the sitter a few hours every Thursday evening, on our date night. Mrs. Cooper was all for it, and we were told by others that the girl, Natalie, was a great sitter. She seemed very friendly when we spoke to her, and our son seemed to like her just fine. The first month goes by, and Natalie is great. Our son is very happy to have her around. She teaches him songs and does arts and crafts with him, and he's always tucked in bed when we come home, Teeth brushed, room clean, toys put away. Natalie is great. We are so impressed, we end up paying her more than we had originally planned. I take her and her mother out for manicures and pedicures, and we get to know each other a little more. They invite us for dinner, we go, and everything's starting to look up. Mrs. Cooper ends up confiding in me. She suspects Mr. Cooper has been having an affair with one of his law students, but she's scared of getting a divorce and having to start over, so she doesn't want to confront him. I don't really know what to tell her, so I just listen. Around mid-August, my husband tells me Natalie said something very strange to him in the car the other day. The Coopers live only a minute away, but we always offer to drive Natalie home. No point in letting a teenaged girl walk home alone in the dark. Sometimes I drive, sometimes my husband drives. One evening when he was driving her home, she said he has nice eyes and that he's sexy for a dad. Obviously, complimenting on his appearance and using the word sexy is inappropriate, but kinda harmless at the same time. At her age, I used to refer to everything and everyone as sexy and hot. In any case, we decided that I should drive her home from then on. I casually mentioned to Mrs. Cooper that Natalie had called my husband sexy to his face, and she instantly cracked up, saying that every woman in the neighborhood has been drooling over him since we moved in, and that I'm very lucky. But she did say she would talk to Natalie. After that, things were okay for a while. Maybe a month or so later in September, Natalie and her family came over for dinner. We open a bottle of wine after we eat. Natalie and her little brother, 15 male, hang out with my son in the theater room. My husband pops into his study at one point to grab his DSLR camera to show to Mr. Cooper, and he finds Natalie in there snooping. He asks what she's doing, why she's in his study, which we had specifically told her was off limits. She was apparently rifling through his desk drawers. He doesn't keep anything worth finding in there, but the fact that she was snooping was bad enough. He sternly tells her that she should leave. She apologizes and ducks out. The moment after the Coopers leave, he tells me what happened, and we decide to hold off on date night for the time being, at least until we find another sitter. Our son adores Natalie, but she clearly isn't a good fit for us anymore. I explained to Mrs. Cooper what happened and that it was probably innocent on Natalie's part. She's a little taken aback at first, but she tells me she understands. The dinners and mani-pedi trips are no more. A few weeks later, someone begins to send explicit emails to my husband. It's all text, and it's all very 50 Shades. We don't know they're from Natalie at first, but we eventually find a line in one of the emails about her father's affair. Apparently, she knows, and she's been following his example. The next day, I show Mrs. Cooper the emails. She initially plays dumb, and then when I say that my husband and I think Natalie is the one sending the emails, she flips out and tells me I've been after her and her family since day one, and that Natalie is a good girl and she would never behave that way towards an older, married man. I try to remedy the situation, but she just accuses me of doctoring the emails because I'm apparently jealous of a teenaged girl, and the conversation spirals way out of control. She leaves, slams the front door on her way out, and that's that. The emails suddenly stop coming in, presumably because Mrs. Cooper has mentioned them to Natalie, and everything is okay for about a week. Then, one of the neighborhood ladies comes up to me on my way to work in the morning and says, "I think it's really awful what you and your husband are saying about Natalie. She's a good girl. You should be ashamed of yourself." This happens a few more times, with a few different people, and we slowly realize Mrs. Cooper has been spreading BS about us. The neighbors think my husband is the one who called Natalie sexy, that I found out, and that I doctored the emails in an effort to ruin the Coopers' reputation. It's all a huge mess at this point, and we don't really know what to do. These people have known each other for generations. There's no way they'll go against what Mrs. Cooper has been telling them. Oh, and this might just be coincidental, but my husband's BMW was keyed outside of the grocery store. On the off chance that one of the neighborhood people did it, we called the police and told them we've been having trouble with some people. They said they'll look into it. At this point, we're reluctant to leave the house outside of work, because every time we do, they stare and whisper and shake their heads and treat us like dirtbags. We don't want to move again. We just bought this house. We've worked really hard to make it special for our son and the child we're trying to conceive. And now with all this Natalie stuff, we feel like prisoners in our own home. I have no idea how to rectify the situation. Something like this would never happen in the city. Oh boy, precious little girl can do no harm, eh? My best advice here is to keep asking questions. Why would we, as new neighbors who want to be on friendly terms with the community, make up a story like that? Get them thinking. Alternatively, have other friends stop into your place. Make sure you have people around on a relatively regular basis that make you feel at peace and comfortable. That will at least keep you happy in your home. There's a saying I think fits quite well. Don't try to mud wrestle a pig. You'll only get dirty, and the pig will love it. Right now, Mrs. Cooper is rolling around in a great big drama pile, in which her daughter is the poor innocent victim of her predatory neighbor and the neighbor's scheming wife. And she gets to be the protective mama who obviously hates to gossip, but feels like everyone has to know. Best of all, it shifted the hot topic away from the extramarital affairs of Mr. Cooper. There's probably a way to beat the Coopers at their own game. Get your own side of the narrative out there and turn the neighborhood against them. But it sounds like a lot of hard work and social scheming. Instead, I think your best bet is to rise above it. You aren't mad at Natalie. You pity her. If people are just looking at you funny, don't even register that. If they try to talk to you about Natalie, key terms like, "I just feel so bad for the poor girl," and "I know how hard it is being her age, so I'd really prefer we didn't talk about why she was let go." Make it clear that you're not participating in the gossip culture, and eventually something new and scandalous will come to light. Welcome to the suburbs. My wife and I have been together for 6 years, married for 5. She has an 8-year-old son, Jake, from a previous relationship. Her ex was very irresponsible, got arrested multiple times, and was involved in shady activity, basically leaving her as a single mother. She moved an hour away from the city where she met me. Jake was just 1 year old. I basically took her son as my own and am very close to him. We have our own son, Matt, who is 4 years old, and Jake is a great big brother to him. They've gotten very close. 2 years ago, her baby daddy came back into the picture. He had some sob story about how he nearly died and had an epiphany and turned his life around. He had a decent job, cleaned himself up, and apologized for everything, and said he wanted to be part of his son's life. My wife is a very trusting and forgiving person, so after determining he had really changed, she didn't really pose any objection to giving him partial custody, despite his abandoning her for years, and said it was best for Jake. I thought it was a bad idea, but she insisted. As of now, Jake sees his dad every other weekend. He's picked up Friday evening and dropped back at our house Sunday evening. We have had some issues with his father not ensuring that he does his homework and occasionally canceling meetings last minutes, but for the most part, he's been pretty committed to the task. The issue is that Jake's father is committed to doing fun tasks with his son. He often takes them to the movies, to sports games, amusement parks, bowling, family parties, etc. I honestly don't know where he gets the money to do this, but it seems like every time they go out, he takes him to do something. It's gotten to the point where Jake is so incredibly eager to hang out with his dad, since he is the fun and cool parent, while his mom is the strict, boring mom, and I am the corny loser that's technically not even his real dad. His words. This kind of hurts, since I practically raised the kid, but it is what it is. What's a bigger issue is that Matt, our son, has become jealous of Jake's trips and expressed desire to go with his brother when he gets picked up by his dad. 2 days ago, my wife brought up the possibility of letting Matt go with Jake when his dad picks him up. She said that he and her ex had talked about it, and he was very willing to bring him along, and she thought it was a great idea that would allow Matt and Jake to bond more and would remove any jealousy in their relationship. Obviously, I was completely against this and thought she was crazy. No way was I letting another man act as a fun parent to my kid. I told her this, and she said she had already talked to Matt about the possibility, and he was really excited about it. I thought this was manipulative and immature to talk to him without consulting with me. I argued that her ex wasn't exactly the most responsible guy, and I didn't want my son to spend time with him. She then got really offended and accused me of preferring Matt over Jake, and that if her ex is good enough to spend time with Jake, why isn't he good enough for Matt? She then said she thought I viewed Jake as a son. This made me angry because it's not as if I agreed for her ex to have partial custody of Jake. It was her idea, and I objected to it, but it's impossible to change her mind, so I didn't put up much of a fight. To turn that against me is just ridiculous. She is still insisting on me allowing this, and thinks I'm being selfish and immature. I've talked to some of my friends about this, and some think my wife is crazy, while some think I should just give in and that we would enjoy the time without kids. I just wanted some advice from you guys. Should I just give in for the sake of keeping the peace, or should I put up a fight? I think it was incredibly inappropriate of your wife to mention this to Matt before talking to you. If you say you are uncomfortable with it, that makes you the bad guy in Matt's eyes, and that was manipulative of her. You need to talk to her about that. As for the actual issue, have you gotten to know her ex? Maybe you can do things together, you, him, and both boys, and maybe your wife, to games, amusement parks, etc. Let Matt and Jake link you to these fun activities as well, instead of just the ex. And this way, you can also get to know him and see how he interacts with the boys and how comfortable you would be in the future not being there.